It's 2025 and you want to get promoted. Well, on today's show, we tell you exactly how to get that promotion or your money back. Reminder, this is a free podcast. Let's get into it. Kayla, we have promised the people a promotion in 2025. Are you ready to deliver on that promise?
Absolutely.
All right, before we talk about 2025, before we fulfill our promise, let's talk about just our career progressions. I think it's a really interesting time to reflect on how we've grown in our career and maybe illuminate how we've gotten promotions in the past as ways to talk about then how to get them in the future. So what has your career promotion life cycle been? How many times have you been promoted? Tell me about that.
I've been promoted so many times, I can't even count, you guys. No, I am a recovering overachiever.
Yeah, now you're an underachiever. Yep.
Now I don't do anything. But at the beginning of my career, I was so desperate to get promoted, and I was at a stage, I feel like when you're younger and you're lower ranking, you can get promoted pretty quickly.
It's true. You go from junior to senior and you're like, pff, easy.
Yeah, it's in within 3 years, you can probably get 3 promotions.
Yeah.
And then once you start getting it higher, it takes longer and longer. So I was on that high. I was I need to get promoted because that's how I know that I'm a good person, and I'm doing a good job.
Yeah.
So
the world loves me.
The world loves me if I am not an associate editor, but an editor. And so I was raising my hand for everything. That first promotion was very memorable to me because I so wanted it.
Yeah. It's also, so you took it very seriously, but to give yourself credit too, it's a great feeling to get promoted.
Yeah.
And if you have in the past, you should be very proud of that. It is a cool step in your career.
Yeah. And I was going so above and beyond. For 6 to 8 months, I was doing so many things that were above my pay grade.
Yeah.
And when I finally got the promotion, 2 months ahead of schedule, I was nobody can touch me. I am the best. Hell yeah. And so I've been chasing that high ever since.
Yeah. You got addicted early, and
exactly.
they had you.
What about you?
Well, as you know, Morning Brew is kind of my first real job.
Sure.
And I mean that in no disrespect to my previous jobs. I think my first technical promotion was I went from junior coach to senior coach at College Possible when I was teaching. But the junior and senior meant I worked with junior students and senior students. Straight up. So it was
That is not a promotion.
It's not actually a promotion. I just stuck around for another year and my students were a year older. Yeah. So I kind of hacked the junior senior promotion there. But then I had jobs that I stayed in for a couple years, but they weren't really jobs you get promoted in. I had a fellowship that was tied to my master's degree. There wasn't going to be a promotion involved there. And so I wasn't in a job that felt traditional or normal, quote unquote, until I took the job at Morning Brew. But I've had a lot of success at Morning Brew getting promoted. And I don't think I was as focused as you. And I think that might be bad for me. It's worked out okay, but I like that you had what you wanted. You articulated that and you had a plan to get it. But I went from community manager to lead community manager. I went from lead community manager to director of community, and I went from director of community to chief of staff. So I've been promoted or moved roles 3 times at the company.
Don't forget, actually, there was one before that.
What was that?
Community editor.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're just going to forget that title ever existed.
Yeah,
that was Morning Brew. I had no idea what they were naming me. Yeah, that was hilarious. I started the job, and everyone's like,
what do you do?
What is this title?
Yeah.
Are you editing it sounded like I was doing genomics or something. You're editing people. I was like, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, community manager, lead community manager, director of community, and then chief of staff. I wasn't super intentional about getting it, but I also think there's a lesson in that, which is if you're working at a company that's growing and the team is growing, there is a rising tide lifts all boats phenomenon where even if you're not actively trying to get promotion, if you're in the right spot at the right time, it can happen to you. And I was a beneficiary of that. I just was in the right spot at the right time. The team grew. Obviously,
I don't think that's true at all.
I was doing good work, but I never was I'm going to get promoted this year and here's my plan. I just got lucky with the timing.
I so disagree. What the hell are you talking about?
Well, tell me more.
First of all, okay, so let's talk about the community manager to lead community manager.
Yeah.
It was a growing team, and you were going to be the lead of that team.
Yeah.
But it was also because you were doing work that was so elevated.
Yeah, well, say more. Keep talking. I'm not discrediting my work. Yeah. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not like, oh, I was really good at my job, but sometimes you're really good at your job, but the team isn't growing. The company isn't making money, and it can be hard to like still get a promotion in that environment. So all I'm just giving credit to the fact that like we were a growing team. We were like making money at the right points in the cycle of that business unit, and I was a beneficiary of that.
Yes, but you also like took advantage of that appropriately.
Yeah.
Like you did not have to get promoted because we were growing. If you sucked, you would not have gotten promoted.
That is true. You still have to, yes.
You have to be good.
A key to promotion is being good at your job.
Yes.
So that's our first tactic. Be good at your job.
Write that down.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So how do you feel like you're approaching 2025? Are you trying to get promoted in 2025?
So I'll ask you the same question. I think for 2025, it's not important to me to get promoted. Like, I don't even know necessarily what that would look like from a chief of staff role. Am I like senior chief of staff? That seems like weirder. Like, I'd rather not even have that title. I mean, you know, probably I'll become CEO. Like, no. So the promotion to a different job title is not important to me. I think I'm like fairly compensated, so I probably shouldn't say this aloud, but like I don't need more money.
Robert, give him a raise.
That's going to be used against me in the court of law for sure. And I think like what I would really like to focus on in 2025 is like not expansion of role, but like being able to work on projects that I feel like I can add a lot of value to that are really exciting. And the thing with my role is it is very broad. And so I can work on a lot of different things. And I think what I need to get very clear about is like specifically what I want to work on. And that's what I have been doing in preparation for 2025. So promotion, job title, compensation increase, not important to me this year, but you know, making sure I'm working on stuff that I really want to be working on is.
So I think that's like when we're talking, you're going to get a promotion in 2025.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's really important to highlight is promotion may not mean that you're getting a 15% raise and a senior in front of your title.
Yes.
Like, you could also be doing cooler stuff or stuff that you're more excited about or stuff that is setting you up for an even larger promotion in the future.
Yep.
And I think figuring out, like, the number one thing that you should be doing at the beginning of the year as you're like setting your quote unquote 2025 career resolutions. I know it's already 6 days into the year, but at this point, so you should be already like what?
I hope you're already promoted.
Already promoted.
6 days in, you're not promoted. What are you doing?
So I think it's just really understanding what you want.
Yeah.
And if you are in the performance review cycle, do us a favor and go back and listen to last week's episode with Kate Noel, the SVP of People at Morning Brew. We talk about how to set yourself up for success for performance reviews. I know you guys were probably, drinking some eggnog, maybe celebrating, prepping.
Kayla's festive.
Putting on some fancy outfits or whatever. When that came out, if you haven't listened to it yet, please listen to it. And that'll help you prepare. One of the things that we talk about in that episode is how to use your performance review, not just to look back, but also to look forward.
Yep.
And to set expectations with your boss about what you need to do in the next 6 months to 12 months to be achieving your goal as an employee, as a team, as a company, and how you can exceed expectations, which could then eventually lead to a promotion or a raise.
Yeah. So I want to go back to the first thing you said, because I think that's the perfect step one, which is deciding what you want. I would say not all promotions are created equally. You might really care about getting a new title. That's super important to you. You don't need more money. That's fine. But you have to decide that and figure that out. You might be like, my title's fine, but a promotion to me is like, pay me some more money. Yeah. I need to see that guap. Like, articulate that.
Yeah.
Or it might be the makeup of your role. Maybe you just want to start doing new things. The title doesn't have to change. You don't need to get paid more, but you want to shift responsibilities. You want to add some responsibilities. So step one to getting quote unquote promoted is deciding what a promotion means to you, so you can then articulate what you want. So I think that's a really good call out by you. Like, that should be step one. But I'm not going to let you avoid the question that you asked me.
Okay.
Are you trying to get promoted in 2025? Like, what are your career aspirations in this coming up year?
This is tough because just to kind of show you how the sausage is made, we are not recording this in the first week of 2025. This is actually...
I thought this was a live podcast.
Morning Brew as a company takes the week in between Christmas and New Year's off.
Yeah.
And so...
And we love it, and we're eternally grateful, and we should keep doing that forever.
Yes. Obviously.
Yeah.
But so we're pre-recording this. And so there's some things that are actually in the works right now where I may, by the time this comes out in 2 weeks, have a different title. So the chances are, yes, I will be getting not necessarily a promotion, but an expansion of my role.
Yeah. Okay, Kayla's like, I'm gonna come to the episode where we talk about getting promotions. Already promoted, so I can flex on Kyle.
But it's not a promotion.
You say you're a recovering overachiever. I'm gonna drop the recovering here. Okay.
It's true. But no, I am rethinking what my role looks like in 2025, and I've had a really interesting career progression similar to you in Morning Brew, and I think something that I think is worth talking about as you're thinking through what you want your next step in your career to look like is figuring out what you value and what you want.
Yep.
But that also, you have to be really critical with yourself about what that means. I have done something that I would call an overreaction in my career progression.
Break it down for us.
So when we were working at Morning Brew Learning, I was director of content, you were director of community, and we can talk about like the drama behind getting those promotions, which was also kind of challenging for me at least. The way that it was working was that I was working very, very hard, and I did have a non-fuzzy output. The non-fuzzy output was words written.
Yeah.
Was courses developed.
Decks created.
Exactly. It was very easy to see I am working very hard. However, it was not directly linked to revenue. And so when that product or that department got shut down because of concerns about growing revenue, I was like, I reacted. And I said, I have a small part of my job, which is the store, the Morning Brew store, that is tied to revenue. And that was, in my mind, one of the reasons why I was able to stay on at Morning Brew, why I wasn't part of the like reductions in force.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And so what I said was, I want to be as tied to revenue as possible so that I feel confident that I will not be eliminated because I can point directly for my actions leading to revenue.
Right. You're like, look, if I can say I make more money than you pay me, like they're never gonna get rid of you. So it felt more safe.
It felt safer.
Okay.
And so I developed a role for myself that felt very safe in that it was basically the number one thing that was tracked was revenue that I drive. And I had a P&L. I basically had a target for revenue. If I surpassed that, like I got, whatever. It was a variable compensation, whatever. And then I just didn't feel like super fulfilled in 2024.
Okay.
I felt like it was great because I didn't have to be an overachiever. I could say, oh, I have projected, X dollars this week, and I'm past that. So maybe I don't need to like take on a brand new project on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
And so that was really nice for a time. Anyways, all this to say, I am trying to make my job in 2025 a little more fuzzy.
Yeah. The opposite of the advice we typically say,
give.
I kind of sense that, to be honest. Like, I appreciate the vulnerability. I think the way you came to that decision, though, is really insightful for listeners. Like, sometimes you're basing what you want in the future on stuff that has happened to you in the past. And I think it's just very important to, like, take a breather, reflect, decide like why you want the things you want, and are you going to want the same things in a year? And so maybe you don't end up in a position that you've just illuminated where you had like an overreaction to an incident that happened, and totally understandable. But then it puts you in a position where a year later you're like, oh, I wish I would have done that a little differently.
Yeah.
And maybe if you just took a little more time, you could have came to a different conclusion.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is the two of us kind of faced similar, like, hey, what do you want to do next at Morning Brew?
Yeah.
And I think you were a lot more intentional about the role versus like the performance evaluation. So can you talk a little bit about how you made the decision to ask for a chief of staff?
Yeah, that's a good call out. I mean, I think I was just always very excited by that role. I've always considered myself a generalist. I've worked across a ton of different industries. I've worked in a ton of different roles, so I thought I would be good at it. And also, it felt to me a role that was very much tied to an executive, the COO at the company, Robert, and I really respected him. We had talked about the role a bunch. I thought he was a really good media executive. I could learn a ton from him, so that also excited me. I really was not thinking about, like, what are the metrics that are going to keep me here. Obviously, we articulated what I would be measured against because that's part of any job. But I was excited by the opportunity, the learning, the growth, the cross-functional nature, the executive I was working for. And I don't think I had the same reaction as you, which is like, I need to get safe now. Because like at the end of the day, I think you can plan all you want. Like everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. You can't really predict anything. I just feel confident that if my time at Morning Brew ended for whatever reason, like I'd be okay. And so I wanted to go for the role that really excited me rather than felt safe.
Yeah. I think that is a good, like, roundabout way of giving the tactic of kind of trying to stay aligned with your career North Star. And so the North Star is actually something we talked about in career mapping, which was one of our like on-demand toolkits from Morning Brew Learning. Basically how to build a path to a career that you feel proud of or that you feel good about. And one of those things is identifying your North Star. Basically, like, what's the big goal that you're working towards in your career?
Yep.
And that could be something as trivial as, like, not trivial, but like, I want to be a partner at the law firm I work at, or I want to, you know, start a company that focuses on, I don't know, baby cry AI detection or something. I just made that up.
Does Kaila have a start? Did we just invent a startup?
I think maybe we did.
Hey, Paul Graham, YC, we're applying.
And my North Star has always been, like, I love to develop content.
Yeah.
That I feel like makes an impact.
Yeah.
And I was veering away from my North Star in trying to opt for safety.
Yeah.
The nice thing about this, I think I would have burned out a little bit quicker or maybe been dissatisfied a little bit more if I didn't have this podcast, very transparently.
Yeah.
Because I'm still doing that. I'm still working towards my North Star by doing this. But I felt like my day job had kind of strayed from that a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I think you were able to toe this line very carefully of doing what I want to do that approaches my North Star and also doing something that makes me feel like safe and like I'm progressing in my career.
Yeah. And like you're excited. Like I think one of the joys of working with Morning Brew Learning and with you so closely is like I feel like it was a lot of work, but we were excited. Like you could come to work and be like, we're doing something that's awesome and impactful and great. And I really wanted to keep that feeling in my next role. And I think I did that. And I think the other reaction was like, okay, but I really don't want to lose a job again, or I almost got cut, so I don't want to make that happen. And sometimes you default to safety and you forget that like enthusiasm and excitement is like important in life.
We'll be right back after this. Okay, back to the show.
Okay, so let's get back to how we get you promoted in 2025. We said step one is like deciding what you want. What makes up the promotion? Is it a comp increase? Is it a title increase? Is it more roles and responsibilities? I love your little addition is like, also decide your North Star.
Yeah.
Ultimately, what are you working towards? And make sure your promotion puts you more on track than less on track. And sometimes it's okay to get off track, as you just shared, like really vulnerably. I love that. My second strategy is then once you've decided what you want, people, breaking news on this podcast, can't read your minds. So you should have a conversation with your manager, not at the mid-year check-in, not at the end of the year where you're like, so I'd like to get promoted. They're like, I'm deciding that now, like it too late. You need to have that as soon as possible in a very respectful way of saying, hey, my goal for 2025 is to get promoted. And a promotion to me means X, Y, and Z. It means I want to make $10,000 more dollars. I want this title and I want this responsibility. How do I achieve that this year? Yep. And the key here is you make them tell you what it takes to get that. And like preferably written down, like hopefully you have a great manager that you don't need to do this, but like if it's in writing, then you can point back at the end of the year or the mid-year check-in when you've accomplished what they told you need to accomplish and say, you said if I do X, I get Y. Here's X. Thank you for Y. Yeah. But you have to have that conversation and you need to know what you need to do to achieve that promotion. And so many people shy away from that conversation and they just hope it is handed to them. And that isn't going to be the case always.
Yeah. And that's the number one way to be dissatisfied in your career.
Yeah. Just hoping
that somebody will recognize. And I do really understand the feeling that my work should speak for itself. I'm going above and beyond. Like I'm doing really good work. Like why should I have to advocate for myself? But in a perfect world, of course, everyone gets exactly what they deserve all the time. But it's not a perfect world. This is reality, and you need to advocate for yourself. And you need to advocate to your manager. Yep. This is what I want, and this is how I'm going to get there. And do you agree, or do you have any changes?
The other key too is there might be an element to get a promotion that you're not even aware of. And I want to talk about us becoming directors. Yes. Because this is a perfect example. So me and Kaila were both like I was lead community manager, you're like lead content maker or something like that. Who knows?
Lead editor, yeah.
And we both I wanted to become director of community and you wanted to become director of content. And, basically what was told to us is like, sometimes it's hard to get a bunch of people promoted in your business unit. There is just sometimes natural constraints and title inflation worries, and like you start giving out promotions, blah, 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 blah. So we were told like, it's probably not gonna be both of you.
Yeah.
And to be a director doesn't mean just doing great work. It means being able to have buy-in from other senior leaders and, quote unquote, like respect across the organization, being visible across the org. That was decided that was a really important part of that title. And, I think maybe for both of us, maybe for like you specifically, that wasn't understood, that like it took that to get to that level. And I think if you don't have the conversation, you can be really disappointed because you can end the year and be like, I crushed my role.
Yeah.
I did everything amazing. I hit every metric. Like the business unit's doing great, but there was something that you should have been doing to get a promotion that you never asked about or you didn't understand or like just wasn't obvious to you. And that's where you're going to be like, fuck, like I could have got this, but I didn't even know that I was being measured against that. And I think that happened where you were told like, you just like maybe aren't as visible.
So yes, you're being very nice about this.
Okay.
Basically, I was told I was expecting getting a promotion to director of content.
Yeah.
And I was told, hey, Kyle's getting a promotion to director of community, and I don't think you're going to get promoted.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this in the past. Gosh, it was probably like, I don't know, 6 months ago at this point. So just listen to all of them and find it eventually. But basically it was like, people don't know who you are outside of the team. And I'm like, okay, but I'm doing really good work. Why aren't you going to promote me?
Shouldn't the work speak for itself?
Exactly. And it's like, I'm not in the office every day because I am grinding. Like every waking moment is spent writing.
Yeah.
Like
if I come into the office, I have to shower and that's an hour I can't work.
And like I talk to people and it was like, yeah, well, that's part of being a director is like, you need to be a bit more comfortable being a player coach. And therefore you need to do some like coach things, which is like advocating for yourself and your team, being visible. And so I completely changed my approach. And that was probably 2 or 3 months before promotion cycles happened. And I like really changed how I viewed my job.
Yeah.
I changed it from I am doing good work and duh, I should be promoted because I'm good at this to I'm doing really good work. And if people don't know about it, like why would I get promoted?
Right.
And so I started getting coffee with people outside of the team. I started trying to talk more to senior leaders. I became, closer to some of the people on the C-suite.
Yep.
And through that,
you're more visible, more vocal.
Exactly. And through that, when it came time for promotions and our boss was saying, I want to promote both of these people to director, which is like, there was not that many people on the team.
Yeah.
So to have 2 major promotions was a big deal. People were like, oh yeah, I know both of them and they're both doing great work and they're both like, I get that.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where you have to start now and you have to understand exactly what is needed. The downside though, if you're looking for a December 2025 promotion and you're having this conversation and getting it in writing in January, like things change in a business and things change really rapidly. And so it's not just like I have a conversation in January and in December, like I'm promoted to director or whatever it is. It's like I have this conversation and I am revisiting it to the point of like, I'm actually annoying the hell out of my manager.
Yeah, well, maybe I wouldn't recommend annoying the hell out of your manager because they probably will play a role in giving you the promotion. But I see your broader point, which I literally have that as number 3, which is check in frequently, maybe once a month.
Yep.
Definitely at the mid-year check-in. Like you want a sense like, am I still going the right way? Like you typed in the GPS to promotion and now you're following the path and you want to look down at your phone every once in a while and make sure, am I still on the right road or did I take a wrong turn and we're going to Ohio instead? No disrespect to Ohio, shout out to the Midwest. But yes, I love that story. And again, like whether you agree or not with like how they're promoting people, if you want to get promoted, it's very important to know how they're doing it.
Yeah.
And if you never brought that up or it was never told to you, you probably wouldn't have got promoted and you would have been like, what the hell? Because obviously you're capable of it.
Yeah.
You're really great at your job. It's just about understanding the criteria that you're going to be graded against.
And also as a manager, if I hadn't had that conversation, that was on me, right? It's my career. I needed to have that conversation. But if I was my manager and I saw that like, oh, Kayla's really interested in getting a promotion, but she doesn't realize blah, blah, blah. Like if I didn't get that promotion, there's a non-zero chance that I would have been pissed and I would have left.
Yeah.
And like,
and I would have cried.
Yeah, as you should have, because I was a great addition to the team. But what I'm saying is, like, as a manager, it's also your responsibility to recognize, like, somebody is starting to ramp up and is starting to get ready for this promotion. I'm also going to visit this conversation and say, you're close. Here's what I expect of you, even if your employee or your direct report is not coming to you asking what they should be doing.
Yeah, this is such a good point, because my last tactic is, like, when you get to the end of the year review or the mid-year check-in, when you go to get promoted, there should be no surprises, right? If you've done this properly and you've checked in enough, you almost should know I'm getting the promotion or I'm not, but like, it's not going to be a surprise, like a big reveal. And part of that, to your credit, is like, if you're a manager, you also don't want no surprises, and that's kind of on you.
Yeah.
And so what you should be doing is telling your employees, this is what it takes to get promoted. Like, you don't want to be in a position where your employee is like, I'm 100% getting promoted. I've crushed it this year. This is so great. Your direct report is like pumped. And then they get to the meeting and you're like, oh no, like, you actually didn't do these 3 things that are very important. I didn't tell you, but like, you're not getting promoted, because they're going to be pissed. You're going to be pissed. So like, it is in the best interest of everyone to just be candid about what it takes to get promoted, and then be checking in throughout the year to make sure that you're on track to achieve that.
And another thing based off what you just said is that this doesn't happen in a vacuum. And there are other things outside of you doing good work that could prevent you from getting to that next step.
100%.
Which could be, like, I don't know, a pandemic happening, and all of a sudden your revenue's cut in half and they don't have the budget to promote you. And I think understanding, or maybe the teams as a whole is doing worse than expected and they don't have the budget, or they can't, like, optically promote anybody.
Yep.
I think that understanding that things are outside of your control, even if you do everything perfectly, you may not get the promotion, and understanding what your, like, next best, your BATNA or whatever, your best alternative is very important.
Clearly someone made learning content dropping. I heard NAFTA. I was like, wait, what?
Oh, your BATNA. I think I don't know what it's, your best alternative to negotiate
the
agreement.
North American Free Trade Agreement.
So thinking about what could happen and being prepared for and having contingency plans, I think, is important.
I love that. And this brings us back to the opening of this episode, where we promised you, we guaranteed you a promotion.
And now we're walking that back.
But to Kayla's point, like, sometimes there's factors that come up, or sometimes, quite frankly, the company makes the wrong decision.
Yeah.
They should have promoted you. They didn't. I think it's important to care deeply about what you want to achieve in your career. Lay it out, do everything you can, articulate, advocate. But if you don't get what you want, like, not to let that totally derail your life. At the end of the day, take a step back. I hope you have family that loves you. I hope you have friends that support you. I hope you're, like, healthy. Like, there's so many other things that are important in life. And so, like, don't let not getting what you want at work, like, affect all these other beautiful things that hopefully you have going on in your life.
Mr. Rogers.
That's that. I kind of turn into Mr. Rogers by the end of every episode. I'm like, just take care of your neighbors. That's all you need to do.
Just remember that life is great.
The last thing I want to bring up is I think we've laid out a very great vision for you on how to get promoted in 2025. But I think depending on which of those small things you want, a title increase, a comp increase, more responsibility, there's little small things you can do to increase your chances of getting those outside of the framework that we've told you. So I just want to say these quickly because I think they're helpful. First is, if you want to get a comp increase, sometimes the best thing to do outside of what we told you, which is, like, ask how you get that, is to get an external job offer. If you get another offer, and we've heard this time and time again on many of these podcasts, sometimes you're just like, my market value is higher than what you're paying me.
Yeah.
Because the market just told me.
Yeah.
What can we do about that? And you have to do it tactfully, of course. If you want a role expansion, a lot of people, I think it is a situation where you have to be permissionless. You start doing more stuff, and then you almost say at, like, the mid-year check-in, like, I've actually been doing X, Y, and Z already. So, like, that should be a part of my official capacity. No one's gonna, like, give you more responsibility, or not everyone's gonna give you more responsibility. It's like, what comes first, the promotion or the responsibilities? I think, unfortunately, it's the responsibilities. So just, if you want it, start doing more so you have something to point back to. And then a title change, this one's kind of hard, but I would really identify, like, to the director point, what's a specific competency I need to become a director? And then you'll find out, oh, the competency is, like, I need to have executive buy-in. Okay, now I need to go develop that skill and, like, prove I'm working on that skill. So again, small mini tactics to get some of those smaller things that might make up a promotion. I thought it was very helpful.
Okay, I love all of those things.
Wonderful.
Easy.
Any final thoughts, Kayla?
Congrats on getting promoted in 2025.
And as a listener of the show, if you do get promoted, we're entitled to 10% of that comp increase. So please, we'll drop our Venmos in the show notes, I believe. And good luck, and thanks for sending us some extra money. Should we roll the credits?
Let's do it.
Our producer is Michaela Heck.
Our technical director is Uchenna Waoku.
Bryce Beloff is our director of production.
And our chief content officer is Devin Emery.
This show is the production of Morning Brew.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
We'll see you when you're promoted.